Hey there, everyone. My name's Judge. Tomorrow is the release of the Sunken City mini-set, which means not only do we get 35 brand new cards, but we also get a completely new arena meta. A bunch of different expansions being rotated in, going to be really fresh, going to be really fun. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the neutral cards, the Warlock cards, and the Warrior cards that are coming into the game, and we're going to take a look at them and see how good they're going to be in the arena. A much different outlook than looking at these cards in a constructed sense. So let's dive in and see. Let's dive in and see what we what we see here. Starting with a cute 1-mana 2/4 card called Bubbler. 1-mana 2/4 common, neutral. After this minion takes exactly 1 damage, destroy it. Pop. All right, this card. I think a lot of arena players look at this card, see the downside, and think, okay, Demon Hunter's usually a pretty good class, and Rogue's usually a pretty good class, and a lot of people play Mage. There are Druids out there, which has been very good over the last while. Those have been all near the top. So is this really going to be good when there's so many classes that don't even need a card to take advantage of this downside? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. I've seen some mixed thoughts on this card for Arena, but I think it's going to be great. It's a 1-mana 2/4, which that is an insane amount of stats, right? That's overstatted for a 2-drop, and that can't be ignored. So I compare this card to a card that also has a very similar downside and is strong, and that is Peasant, which is a 1-mana 2/1. And, you know, it has all the same weaknesses against Demon Hunters and Rogues and Druids, and admittedly, it's a lot weaker in those matchups, but it's still something you draft a lot of, and it's still completely playable. This being only 1 mana means that even if your opponent is, say, using their Mage Hero power to kill this, you're gaining 1 mana on that interaction. So even though you're losing the card, that's not nothing. That's something to take advantage of. I think this card is super well statted, and I think that alone is going to make this just a really, really solid 1-cost. Also has that elemental tag, so depending on what sets are rotating in, we can see some, you know, there's a cheap activator for a lot of other elemental synergies. So I think this is going to be a great 1-cost. You know, we'll see with that downside just how good it is, but I think this is going to be very, very strong. Next up, we have a 3-mana 3/3 rare. Snapdragon, Battlecry. Give all your Battlecry minions in your deck +1/+1. So, you know, if your deck is, say, all Battlecry minions, this card is pretty good. If your deck is half, okay, the card is insane if that's the case. If your deck is half Battlecry minions, I think that's probably pretty good. The problem with this card in Arena, there are 2 problems with this card. One is you're playing Arena, so your cards are probably not going to be all Battlecry cards. And 2, it doesn't buff your hand. So you play a 3-mana 3/3, which is going to set you behind to begin with, and you don't necessarily get to gain your tempo back right away, or at all. Which makes this probably just too slow and too inconsistent to be good in Arena. So I don't think this is going to work. Maybe there are some fringe decks where it's like, oh my god, I drafted 22 Battlecry cards, but it seems like mostly this card is just not going to be quick enough. Even if you do have half your deck being Battlecries, if you draw 2 in a row that aren't +1/+1, you've really just played a bad 3-drop and not followed it up with more tempo. So I don't think this one's going to be too strong on turn 3. Next we have a 4-mana 5/4 Beast, Coilfang Constrictor. With the Battlecry, look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand and choose one. It can't be played next turn. That's a super, super strong effect. Super cool effect. The stat line is fine. I think that the 5/4 stat line has always been completely playable, sometimes even good. I think with the power of cards that have been coming up in the last couple expansions, the 4 health for 4 mana slot has gotten a little bit weaker, but it's still playable. You give it a good effect, and it becomes good. And I think that this is an extremely strong effect, especially in Arena. You just pick their 4 cost if they're coming in turn 4, or you pick their 5 cost if they're coming in turn 5, and you can just completely screw with their curve out, which in Arena is huge. So I think this is an extremely, extremely strong effect. It's going to be very annoying for your opponent to be hit by this, right? It's going to be an annoying card to have to play against. Obviously mistakes will be made. You'll be relieved when somebody hits one card you weren't going to play. But then it's at worst a 4-mana 5/4 beast, which is completely fine. Really like this flavor. Really a big fan of this card. It's going to be frustrating at times, but I think this is a very, very strong card. Next, we have a card that I think a lot of you have probably seen already, and that is the new neutral colossal. 10 mana, 7/7, colossal +2. We'll get to the appendages in a second. Rush, Wind Fury. Whenever Neptulon attacks, if you control any hands, they attack instead. Of course, so you summon 2 hands as the appendages for Neptulon, the Tide Hunter. And those hands are 4/2s, and those 4/2s are immune while attacking, whether it be from the Neptulon effect or just on their own. And if we've learned anything in the arena about immune while attacking, it's pretty good. It's pretty strong, as it turns out. A lot of people are calling this, Raid Boss Onyxia 2, which, not 2.0, but just like a second version, right? I think this card is unbelievably powerful. I think this card will come down and ruin your day on turn 10. And I think it's I don't think it's quite as strong as Raid Boss Onyxia, but I think it's close. If you're discovering elementals, you must take this, It's just an insane power level. I gotta say, as much as this card is probably going to be one, like Ysera, like Raid Boss Onyxia, that is very frustrating for good players, because they're just winning, and then this comes down and probably wins the game. It's going to be frustrating in that sense, but I love the flavor. The idea of that this giant, Neptulon comes down, this giant creature, and just starts smacking around minions left and right with his 2 gigantic hands makes me pretty happy. So that's very fun, and at least I can focus on that when I'm getting absolutely obliterated by this card. So what if you're wondering how this card works, is it will attack. It has Rush. The 7/7 will attack, and say there's an 8/8 on the other board. As it goes to attack, the other 4/2s will attack and kill it first, and Neptulon will be safe and alive and be able to attack again. So it's very, very powerful. Going to remove a lot of big boards. I think just it's step down from Raid Boss, but still just insane. Next up, we have our last neutral card here is another neutral colossal minion. Azumat? Azumat? I want to say Azumat. Azumat? Azumat. Either is acceptable. 8 mana, 6/5 beast, colossal +6, so 6 appendages. Death rattle for each of Azumat's tentacles. Destroy a random enemy minion. So it just fills the board with these tentacles, which are 1/3s. Fills the board with 1/3s, and then if the main body dies, it will kill a random enemy minion for each of those that are left alive. So immediately you play this. It's a ton of stats right off the bat, which for me is the main reason this card is going to be strong, right? It's just 8 mana. How many stats is that? Math? Hello? 8 mana, 12, 23? Is that math? Wait, yeah, that's math, right? 8 mana, 12, 23? Obviously, the stats aren't split up optimally, but that's a lot of stats. And your opponent can't really just rush face unless they have lethal, because you just trade off the azumat, you keep a ton of stats, and their whole board dies. So they have to start making a ton of value trades. It pretty much just wipes the board. The main thing about this card that makes it a lot worse than Neptulon is it's slow. You play it and it doesn't do something instantly. It's a big threat, but it doesn't have rush, right? So your opponent can, and it's 8 mana, so your opponent can just, if they have lethal set up, or if they have a lot of damage and maybe reach from hand, they can kind of just ignore it. It's not a lot of power, it's a lot of health. So in a lot of cases, it's not going to be as good as just like a complete board wipe and take the board. But it's still strong. It's a little bit comparable to, I think, like original Onyxia, just with a much scarier upside, right? Like a lot better of Onyxia, I guess, is what this card is. Looks strong. Not nearly as strong as Neptulon, but quite good. All right, next up, let's get into the Warrior class cards. There are 3 of them. The first one is a 4 mana 3/5 Taunt. Great stat line. We all know Sunken, Sunken Shieldmaster. Staple of Arena. Garbage card, don't get me wrong. 4-mana 3/5 taunt, Battlecry Dredge. Gain armor equal to its cost. And it's an elemental. So, when I first looked at this card, I thought, you know what, this is pretty underwhelming. We know that the 4-mana 3/5 stat line has really been power crept on. Senjin is no longer a good card, kind of at all. It's it's got taunt, so it's something, but it's not really that good. So, does the Battlecry and the tag of the elemental make this worth it? And at first I thought, come on, no, it's a 3/5. But when you add effects, like multiple effects to one card, it really makes it a lot better quickly. I think that this is going to be better than people think. Like, we have already a 4-mana 3/6 Battlecry Dredge, and that card's great. It gives a discount, to be fair, to the next card, which is a big deal. But you get to not only dredge, but you also gain a little bit of health. Like, it's just adding effects into this card. Maybe you gain 8, maybe you gain 6, maybe you gain 3. Regardless, it's still something relevant, I believe. So you get the taunt, you get the armor, you get the dredge. If you've played any Sunken cards, right, you pull the Sunken weapon in Warrior is very, very powerful. If you're lucky enough to get like a Phelan, like the dredge is a big deal. I think this card is going to surprise people. I think it's going to be quite good. I might be wrong on that. The stat line is a little bit weak, but I think it's got enough effects packed into one, and dredge being a strong enough mechanic, that I think this is going to be quite strong. Next up we have Tidal Revenant, 8-mana, 5/8 Battlecry, deal 5 damage, gain 8 armor. This one I know will be very strong. This card is insane. This card is insane. It's a common. If Warrior is one of the better classes, you will get sick of this card. You'll see this card everywhere. This card is absolutely bonkers. We already had a card similar to this in Arena for a long time called Pit Crocolisk, and it's always been a top-tier card. Even to this day, it holds up for power level at an 8-mana 5/6 with just the Battlecry, deal 5 damage. Here, you get 2 extra health, which is a big deal. A 6 health minion versus an 8 health minion. And you get an extra 8 health to your hero. It's just a much better version of Pit Croc, which is insane. It can go face, it can hit minions, and it's got a big body. It's a big lad. This card's insane. You're gonna have a hard time not picking this. In fact, I'm trying to think what you would take over this. Unless you already have a ton of late game, I guess. You're probably drafting this. Absolutely insane card. Let's see, lastly for Warrior, we have a card that's maybe a little less good, but pretty insane. 3-mana, Clash of the Colossals, a rare spell. Add a random colossal minion to both players' hands. Yours costs 2 less. So, yeah, what do I say about this card? That card just, flip a coin. Here's the thing. You have to pay 3 mana to get your discounted colossal. That is only 2 mana less. So, in theory, you're losing a mana on the deal. But, if you get your 7 mana colossal down on turn 5, and your opponent's stuck with a 10 mana or 8 mana colossal, you could maybe have already won the game. However, the same goes the other way. Like, if your colossal is Kolok, and you give your opponent a Gigafin, you might have just lost the game yourself. This card seems like a big coin flip card that probably is not going to be good. Seems like a very big coin flip card, but for Warrior, a class that currently has a 35% win rate, and for the last 6 months has had a hard time getting over 40%, maybe you're actually picking up coin flips to boost that to 50% or so. It doesn't seem like a good card. It seems like it's an insane effect that is just like, I don't know if I'm gonna win. Let's just roll the dice here. So crazy effect, and absolutely insane. Complete RNG card. There's a pretty big. Most colossals are very good, but some just match way better into others. Some are a little weaker, and some just win the game on the spot. Absolutely insane card. Don't think it'll be good, but I might draft it. All right, we got 3 more. These are Warlock cards. 3 Warlock class cards, starting with a 4-mana fire spell, Immolate. Light every card in the opponent's hand on fire in 3 turns. Any still in hand are destroyed. So this card is going to be terrible in Arena. Obviously, there's some mixed opinions on this in Constructed. If you've checked out any Constructed reviews, it's going to be insane against combo decks and terrible against aggro decks. In Arena, it's just terrible. This sucks. You can't spend 4 mana to do nothing. This is 4 mana, do nothing, discard a card, and that's just garbage. You will probably never take this, or you will if you're if you're a huge memer, I guess. Like you play this on 4, and they just curve out and win. Even if they discard 2 cards, you've sacrificed 4 mana of tempo. You can't do that. You can't do that. This card is terrible. This card is absolutely horrible. Next up, we have Herald of Shadows, 3 mana, 4/2, Naga. Battlecry, if you've cast a shadow spell while holding this, steal 2 health from a minion. Notice the steal, not deal 2 damage, and add 2 health. So if there's a 4/2 Divine Shield mech, say, on the board, you can steal its health and kill it through the Divine Shield, which is pretty cool. So here's the thing. This is a card that, if you haven't played a shadow spell, kind of sucks. It's not very good. If you have played a shadow spell, this card is insane. So, you know, how many shadow spells do you have? This is going to be a very conditional card. I think that, you know, the win rate's going to be high on this card because people will take it when they have enough shadow spells to make it insane. That doesn't mean it's always going to be good in your deck. You know, you're going to need a few shadow spells before you're drafting this, or you're going to take it early with the knowledge that maybe the meta has a lot of common shadow spells. But I'm trying to think. What do you do? Play a Drain Soul on turn 2 on their 2-drop, and then play this on their 3 maybe or something. Even then, is the 3-drop going to have 2 health? I think that to play this on curve is going to be very difficult. Meaning it's probably going to be like a turn 5 or 6. And if you're killing something with this, that's still going to be good. So I think it's good as a mid-game play if you have enough shadow spells, but it's going to be tougher, I think, to make work than people realize. Insane card if you can pull it off. All right, and lastly, we have, oh yeah, Commander Ulthok, 5 mana, 7/7 legendary. Battlecry, your opponent's cards cost health instead of mana next turn. So 5 mana, 7/7, that's a great stat line in Arena, right? That's some huge stats. The effect, however, is not a good one. In Arena, this is suicide most of the time. It's funny because here's another card that in Constructed is going to be sometimes insane and sometimes garbage. But you know, like it can be really tough in Constructed on certain turns to throw this down as you're filling their hand with curses. But in Arena, there's just no way you can get away with this. You play this and you immediately... It's like Millhouse Mana Storm, where you play it and you immediately get blown out for what this is worth. I will say, like, I think this card is garbage, but it's always interesting to take a look at these effects, these unique effects, and think, how can we actually make this work? Because if you play this, and your deck is filled with removal, and you know, your opponent plays out their hand, maybe they go down to 12 health, but they have a huge board, and then you slam down like a giant mass removal, maybe, I don't know, a Spammy Arcanist, or maybe you have Entitled Customer, and something can work there. This could, you know, convince your opponent just to empty their hand for no reason, and that could be pretty good. But it's so fringe. It's so fringe, and you can't guarantee that in Arena at all. So I think this is mostly just going to be absolute trash. If you're feeling memey, then you pick it up and see if you can't get some hard removal after. And that could be pretty fun. But Warlock's cards look pretty bad for Arena. Alright, hey, that'll do for the Neutral, Warrior, and Warlock cards. Be sure to check out my other reviews on all the other class cards in my 2 other videos. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
My name is Judge.
Whose name is Judge?
My name is.
Whose name is Judge?
My name is
That's a silly name.
Judge.
Okay, that's enough.